On this beautiful occasion of Diwali, we are welcoming with us Dr. Karan Singh, a person who is of importance to our country, of great historical importance, not only to our country but to the world. A person who's remained on almost every constitutional post. I mean, 8 times member of parliament, ambassador, governor, cabinet minister, a chancellor of a university, a Padma Vibhushan, and as vice president, Venkaiah Naidu ji said in parliament, a Raja to Mantri and a reader to a leader. And so has been his personal life, where he is a writer, philosopher, politician, statesman, educationist, musician, and a champion of interfaith movement. A person whose nickname is Tiger and yet went on to choosing the national animal of India. That's tiger. Before it was lion, I just wanted to say. A person whose life has gone parallel to that of India since independence, and both are winners, where India has an indomitable spirit and so does Dr. Karan Singh. And he's the last man standing as amongst all his contemporaries. And that's what Nehru ji said. We are in a let's have this exciting adventure of building a new India. We are welcoming him as he's of great importance and witness of major events since 1952. And the biggest historical moment was the Jammu and Kashmir event that happened. And जब जम्मू कश्मीर का नाम आता है महाराजा करण सिंह जी के बिना ये वाक्य अधूरा है. We are welcoming the living heritage, Dr. Karan Singh, sir. So welcome on our podcast of Decoding Elections.
Thank you.
Sir, I wanted to know before all, what would you be like to know, a philosopher or a politician?
If I have a choice, I prefer philosopher. Although I was both. But if I have to choose it, I prefer philosopher.
Sir, the youth would be excited to know the events that happened during the signing of instrument of accession, because some said that you were in the very same room and you have spoken about this in your autobiography, and when you go back and imagine sitting on your chair about those events, does it send chills and rigors back your spine?
It was a very difficult period because the attack had come from Pakistan, the so-called Qabilis, led by Pakistan officers in plain, not in uniform, and planned by Pakistan. So they came in, the communications in those days were very unsatisfactory. And so they took us really by surprise. There was a lot of tension, and my father was advised to move to Jammu because the instrument of accession needed to be signed. I wasn't in the room, I was actually on a wheelchair, because I had this problem with my hip. But I was in the same building, and that was what happened on the 26th of October 1947. It was a very tense period, and although we were all very happy with independence, but this was a period of great, there were riots going on, there was the killings by the raiders, and so it's a really very difficult moment. Very difficult.
Sir, the whole world is very much aware about the history of Jammu and Kashmir and are acknowledging the valor of General Zorawar Singh and how it led to the formation of and the great area that came into Jammu and Kashmir. Sir, I wanted to know, during the attack of 1947 from Pakistan, when there were like Qabilis and there were ununiformed soldiers, I wanted to just ask, sir, did your father or you felt that you people lacked a general capable like Zorawar Singh?
As a matter of fact, the problem there was, we did have a man, Brigadier Rajinder Singh, who held the raiders off. My father sent him to fight to the last man and the last bullet. I was in the room when he came and saluted my father and got this direction. And he went there with 100 Dogra soldiers, and they held the raiders up for 48 hours in Uri. And that saved Kashmir, because if they had got in earlier and got the airfield, then the thing would have been over. So we had a great man again, but the problem was that our forces were dispersed along this whole long area of Jammu and Kashmir. And this is a book on my father, Maharaja Hari Singh. 2 books I just released recently. and therefore they were dispersed. And secondly, unhappily to say, we had a lot of Muslim troops also, and they turned hostile and revolted, and that weakened our army considerably. Otherwise, we had a very good state force. It's a tragedy that this happened towards the end.
Sir, okay, thank you for letting us know about your able general that you had, because it is often less spoken about, and when one looks at the failure to prevent the Jammu and Kashmir, people do think that maybe they did not have a very strong
If we had had a what should I say, a Hindu regiment in a battalion in Kohala, they wouldn't have been allowed in. The regiment in Kohala was mixed, half Muslim, half Hindu, and the Muslims got up in the morning and just massacred their fellow people and opened the gate.
Okay.
And my father had called Karan Singh, who was commanding the 4th Battalion JNK. I said, "Do you trust your Muslim troops?" He said, "Your Highness, I trust them more than I trust my Hindu troops." Because they fought together in Burma, not realizing that उस वक्त तक वो जहर फैल चुका था partition का.
अच्छा.
So that if it had, that could have made all the difference. If there had been one pure Hindu battalion in Kohala, we may have stopped them straight away there. Just bad luck or bad planning, I don't know.
As they say, when misfortune falls, it falls from all sides.
Exactly.
Sir, you have immense faith in spirituality, and you have spent all your life speaking and preaching about spirituality, and you have been called a champion of interfaith movements. Sir, I just wanted to know that you hold spirituality in such high regard, and so do the locals of Kashmir and Jammu. So, but do you think that it is helping the state of Jammu and Kashmir anywhere?
I'm afraid to say it hasn't helped very much so far, I must admit. But basically, remember, Mayank, we do spirituality for our own spiritual development. We also try and help society, but basically it is an inner journey. That inner journey should continue despite what may happen outside. So certainly we've gone through very difficult times and as you say, the Muslims are also devout, वो भी 5 बार नमाज करते हैं, हम भी पूजा करते हैं, लेकिन लगता है कि भगवान सुन नहीं रहे हैं आसानी से. We have to continue.
Sir, you have often spoken about that, how if your father and Abdullah got along, then today's scenario would have been very different.
Indeed.
Right? And the world history is a history of few men and few egos and few rivalries. And so does it goes with Nehruji and Jinnahji, right? If they got along very well. Sir, I just wanted to ask, your father, as it appears from the literature, did not have a very good relation with Nehruji, but you later on went on to develop Nehruji as your guru. And so what do you have to say on this?
You see, on this is very clear. You see, my father and Jawaharlalji were on opposite sides of the political spectrum. My father was represented the feudal order, which was there under British patronage for 200 years or whatever. But then that was collapsing. And Jawaharlalji was the new charismatic leader of the freedom movement. He was the emerging force. So it was obviously they would clash. My position was in between. You see, I was Yuvraj. I remember my birthday was a public holiday and all. But I knew that the age of feudalism is gone. And I wanted to become part of the democratic system. I wanted to become part of what Jawaharlalji used to call the exciting adventure of building a new India. I was a young man of 16, an idealistic young man. I grew up reading his books, autobiography, Discovery of India and so on. So I was naturally more inclined towards his philosophy rather than my father's philosophy. That's what happened. It was an excruciating situation for me to be caught in between. But I have explained that all, as you say, in my autobiography.
Sir, there is so much to learn from you, and yes, one cannot go through the entire spiritual heritage that you have acquired and beliefs that you have formed. But from what little knowledge that I have, sir, I wanted to ask that you are a firm believer in karma. And yes, when one goes and listens and reads to history, that they feel that the Dogra dynasty that still lives on, sir, do you think that there have been a karmic depth on you which led to the sad state of Kashmir and Jammu? as Maharaja Gulab Singh did not choose to participate in the decline of the Sikh Empire.
Wait a minute, there's two things you've asked. This thing that Maharaja Gulab Singh didn't participate, this has been put forward by historians, but it is only one side of the picture. Maharaja Gulab Singh lost two of his brothers and two of his sons. He gave great sacrifices for the Sikhs. And as long as Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji was alive, Sher-e-Punjab, he was very, very loyal to him. He stayed with him. That's why he rose to become a general. Once the great Maharaja died, these Sikh missiles started fighting with each other. At that time, Raja Gulab Singh saw that he didn't have any further role there, because the Sikhs themselves were not united. They were fighting with. So he then said, no, I am not going to be part now of this. I am going to work out my own, because he had already been given the title of Raja and the Rajaship of Jammu. So he then negotiated with the British, and then 1846 the Treaty of Amritsar. But you must remember that he did that only after making terrible sacrifices, family sacrifices, and seeing that the Sikhs were undivided and fighting with each other. So that's why he didn't go. The impression that he let down Maharaja Ranjit Singh is not true. As long as Maharaja Ranjit Singh was alive, he was with him all the time. उसके बाद हालात ऐसे बने, उन्होंने सोचा अब तो मैं यहाँ से निकलूँ और अपना राज्य बनाऊँ. That's the first thing. So that date, I don't think we have any negative date on that. But the Dogras ruled J&K for 100 years, 101 years. It was a unique state. Jammu, Kashmir, Baltistan, Gilgit-Baltistan, Ladakh, huge state, 84,000 square miles. And we ruled it for 100 years. Muslims, Shias, Sunnis, Baltis, Buddhists, Hindus, and yet for 100 years there was no major revolt. So I think we did reasonably well, I think.
Yes, sir. Even building a house takes so many years, and whereas you established a dynasty that's been alive for 100 years, and still it will live on in the tales that people continue to tell their children for ages to come. Sir, other is a
100 years to वो हुए उसके अलावा मेरे 90 साल हुए, almost 200 years now.
Almost 200 years. Sir, speaking to you, it happens in ages, like, because we can talk about the past history, the modern history and the present times, right? So I just wanted to ask, now that we have been talking history, sir, you have contested so many elections. What was your experience like? Which was the most special one? And because, sir, there was this one special election that I remember after emergency, everybody lost in the North India from the cabinet ministers. And Dr. Karan Singh ji was the only person who won that election, right? And when it comes to election, there was this other election when he contested against Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, because he was projected as another great Hindu leader. And sir, tell us about your experience. And
you see, I have fought 6 elections. 4 elections in Udhampur.
Okay.
The first 4 elections. 67, 71, 77 and 80. Now, the most difficult of those was, actually, there was one, the post-emergency election, where, as you say, everybody else lost. I was the only person to win. 3 people won from North India. And I was health minister also, mind you.
Yes.
That was the problem, that vasectomy and all. Despite that, I won. So that was quite a remarkable achievement, I must say. But the more difficult one, Mayank, was 1980. In 1980, what had happened was, the Congress had split again. It split in 77, when we stayed with Indira Gandhi. It split again in 89, after the emergency, when many of us, Y.B. Chavan, Subramaniam, Sardar Swaran Singh, we did not join that, because that became more or less the Sanjay Congress.
Yes.
Because by that time, Sanjay had virtually taken over the situation. We didn't join. So in the 1980 election, my main opponent, Sheikh Abdullah, who was an opponent of our family for many years, and Indira Gandhi, who was Indira Gandhi, they together fielded a joint candidate against me.
Okay.
And that joint candidate was Sri D.D. Thakur, father of the former Chief Justice of India, who just retired.
Okay.
Tir Singh Thakur's father.
Okay.
Very brilliant lawyer. coming from the same area where I was standing. And both of them, Sheikh Abdullah said, I am prepared to lose all 5 seats, लेकिन Karan Singh को हराना है. And Indira Gandhi didn't say anything, I must say, to her credit, but nonetheless, that was a joint Indira Congress National Conference candidate. That was my toughest battle. But मैंने कहा अब ये तो सर धड़ की बाजी है और डोगरास की स्टैंड है ये, तो उसमें भी मैं 50,000 वोट से जीता.
अच्छा.
बड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ी उसमें. दैट वाज द मोर डिफिकल्ट इलेक्शन. तो ये हुए 4 उधमपुर वाले. उसके बाद आई मेड वन ऑफ पॉलिटिकल मिस्टेक्स एवरीबडी मेक्स. आई ऑल्सो मेड इट. फॉर द नेक्स्ट इलेक्शन in 1984, after Indira ji had been assassinated, I switched the constituency to Jammu.
Okay.
Which I should never have done because Udhampur had returned me 4 times. They would have returned me again.
Yeah.
But for some reason into which I would not go big thing, and I lost. Because there was an Indira Gandhi sympathy backlash towards Rajiv.
Rajiv, yes.
Although I knew Rajiv since he was 7 years old and Sanjay was 5 years old. So that's I lost. Then I went out of politics for 12 years. I travelled around the world. In between, Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister. He appointed me Ambassador to the United States.
Yes, sir.
He was assassinated, which is a terrible, terrible tragedy. He would have taken us into the 20th century, 21st century. वो गए. तो उसके बाद then Nasim Rai वो गए. 1999 में, my wife and I were holidaying in France. And the telephone was, Sonia Gandhi wants to speak to us. क्या बात है सोनिया? आप आ जाइए. We wanted to stand against Atal ji. कोई नहीं मिल रहा है हमें, कोई नहीं खड़ा हो रहा है. मैंने कहा हम आते हैं बात करते हैं. So we came back and she said that can you stand against Atal ji? I knew that I couldn't win that election. Atal ji had already won from Lucknow 3 times and was the most popular figure at that time in India. It was a very fine person. I had very high personal regard for him. So मैंने कहा ठीक है, लड़ूंगा पार्टी का. पार्टी का you have to make all the arrangements. I have no office. I have no. She said no, we'll do all of that. So I fought, and that was an election worth remembering because my wife and I were given 15 days only to fight in Lucknow. और हमने सारी लखनऊ हिला दी. If you ask them, बल्कि वो लोग तो अब तक भी कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि साहब आप जीते हुए थे, उन्होंने धांधली की. I don't want to go into that. It was a little strange. We were going neck and neck. Suddenly उन्होंने कहा बिजली बंद हो गई.
अच्छा.
तो जब बिजली आ गई तो he was 1 lakh ahead. So I don't want to make any this thing. He would have won. He should have won because he was. We never spoke against each other. Yes. All I said was कि देखिए अटल जी ब्राह्मण हैं, उनका ये शब्द था, वाक्य था कि अब 3 बार मैं जीत चुका हूँ, अब मैं फिर से नहीं आऊँगा. मैंने कहा उनके वचन रखने के लिए मैं लड़ रहा. और मैं ये भी कहता था कि मेरे समधी साहब ने उनको हराया है, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं हराया जा सकता. माधवराव सिंह हैड डिफीटेड हिम इन ग्वालियर. ये 2 बातें कहता था मैं. उन्होंने भी कभी मेरे विरुद्ध कोई पर्सनल बात नहीं की. तो बहुत अच्छी इलेक्शन थी खुशहसूबी से. ये दैट वाज द 6th election.
It's wonderful listening to the minute details of what went behind the elections because we rarely get to know those minute details. Sir, there is one thing that I wanted to ask. During the Congress reign of 2004 to 2015, an able man like you were advising and heading so many things, but do you miss being a minister?
Well, yes, I had been 10 years minister in Indira Gandhi's government. I was the only one who had this experience. But for some reason, I was not included in the cabinet. I can't say why I was not included. Sonia Gandhi evidently took that decision. So I did a lot of other things, mind you. I was 9 years president of ICCR, Indian Council of Cultural Relations, which is something I liked very much because culture is my main interest actually. So in those 9 years, we opened as many as 40 cultural centers around the world and sent so many troops abroad and had music in the park, in Nehru Park. I had the boy band festival in Purana Kila where boy bands from all SAARC countries, including Pakistan, used to come and play, and there was a huge audience. So I enjoyed that. I also did 8 years as India's representative on the UNESCO Executive Board. तो ये 2-3 चीज़ें मैंने की, कैबिनेट में नहीं आया.
So you were also the chairman of Indian International Center when
For a while, हाँ.
when the major controversy took place, that Laluji controversy that happened.
हाँ, sorry, that wasn't a very good idea.
That was a widely controversial thing.
But the thing is that so I didn't become a cabinet minister.
Sir, how did you develop love for writing? Just
I
today,
must tell you, wait a minute before that. In 2006, my name was there for the President of India. Many people thought I would make a very good president.
Yes, sir. We don't doubt it.
तो वो 2006 में मौका आया था. After Abdul Kalam, after Dr. Abdul Kalam.
Dr. Abdul Kalam.
Abdul
right?
Kalam
And
passed away.
Before Pratibha Patil ji.
And before Pratibha Patil ji.
Yes.
So when Pratibha Patil came, that was the time when I could have become president.
Yes, sir.
I believe that the Congress put forward my name,
Yes.
but I was told that the communists opposed. At that time, remember, the UPA 1 was dependent upon the CPM.
Yes, sir. It was.
The communists said, "Nahi ji, we are a republican country. How can we have a Maharaja, Maharaja's son as these things?" I said, "ठीक है. You should judge me on my merits. Being a Maharaja's son is no sin. Buddha was the Maharaja's son.
Yes,
Ashoka was the Maharaja's son."
Yes, as Plato said, we need more of philosophers who become rulers and more of rulers who become
So
philosophers.
in any case, they vetoed my presidency. मैंने कहा बात बता दूँ सर, क्योंकि तुमने पूछा ना कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर के बारे में, इसके बारे में ज़्यादा संभावना थी.
Okay.
लेकिन ये भी नहीं चला. Doesn't matter.
But I believe that had history not taken its course, then India would have had a stronger keepsay in the Kashmir issue had you become the president of India.
उसी वक्त प्रतिभा बनी ना फिर.
Yes, sir.
किसी और नहीं मिला. फिर किसी ने कहा भी why don't we get a woman? तो somebody said there is a woman governor in Rajasthan. कौन है पता लो. देखते देखते प्रतिभा जी बन गई.
Sir, how did you develop a love for reading and writing? So, because what happened, even today you were telling that you have launched 2 books,
ये बचपन से मुझे शौक है. From childhood, even when I was at Doon School, I started reading extensively. लाइब्रेरी में जाता था, मैं बहुत वहाँ पढ़ता था. तो पढ़ने का तो बचपन से मुझे शौक है. लिखना फिर मैंने शुरू किया when I was about 20. So my first articles, a series of 3 articles on Amarnath, यात्रा में गया था. 3 articles, Hindustan Times, published in 1952.
Okay.
It means I've been writing from 1952 to 2022. तो मैं हिसाब लगा लो 70 वर्ष हो गए.
So, there's this beautiful story. I went to Mussoorie and I keep buying Ruskin Bond books. So, in one of the Ruskin Bond books, I find a letter because I was always fascinated by Dr. Karan Singh ji and the tremendous work that he's doing, and he's being a cultural icon. So, I was always having this soft corner. So, I saw in this Ruskin Bond book that there's a letter written by Dr. Karan Singh in his youth to Ruskin Bond about his some book that he liked, and in the signing off there is written Yuvraj, which was very much evident. So, and
I wrote to Ruskin Bond.
yes, you wrote to Ruskin Bond in your youth, right? And
What did I say?
you must have appreciated some story in some magazine, right?
He's about my age, Ruskin Bond.
Yes, okay.
Yes, he's a good writer.
Yes, yes. And there's your letter in some book, and I will try to locate that and find and enclose in this video.
Oh, interesting. I had forgotten that I didn't.
Yes,
I wrote to many. I wrote to Aldous Huxley. I wrote to a lot of people.
Yes, so that's why I wanted to ask, sir, how do you network? Because is letter writing your main?
You see, nowadays, nobody writes any longer.
Yes.
Letter writing has gone out now.
Yes.
I had a now fountain pen. I was trying to find an ink pot. You can't buy any ink in Delhi. You cannot buy blotting paper in Delhi.
Okay.
ब्लॉटिंग पेपर होती थी. यू डोंट, तुम भी तो छोटे हो, जो स्याही के बाद उसको ब्लॉट करते थे ताकि. सो वो ज़माना ख़त्म. बट आई लव राइटिंग लेटर्स. आई रोट ऑल दोज लॉन्ग लेटर्स टू जवाहरलाल जी.
That's a book.
This is my whole book. And to Indira Gandhi. Like extensive correspondence. Because in those days, letter writing was the main form. This is all before this Twitter and Facebook and all this started. So yes, letter writing. I still dictate some letters occasionally, to good letters. I like writing letters.
So do you maintain a diary as well, sir?
Well, not really, not a daily diary. I maintain just an engagement diary, not a daily diary. It's too much because I do so much. If I start writing, 2 घंटे diary लिखने को चाहिए.
Okay. So how do you network was the main question, being a Maharaja?
Well, I'm not a Maharaja. I'm just a Indian citizen. Remember,
Yes.
forget that Maharaja एक ज़माने में पिताजी थे, एक ज़माने में मैं भी था technically. After Pitaji passed away when he died in 1961, and until the princes were abolished, I think in 1968 to 69, for those 7 or 8 years, I was technically Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir. Although मैंने statement दिया था after my father passed away that I will not use my title.
Okay.
So I prefer to be called Dr. Karan Singh. कई लोग पूछते हैं why do you prefer to? I tell you why. Maharaja was only because I happened to be born in the family. उसमें मेरी कोई ज़्यादा बहादुरी नहीं थी, लेकिन PhD के लिए तो मैंने मेहनत की, MA किया, MA के बाद PhD किया, मेहनत की, तो डॉक्टरेट जो मुझे मिली is not an honorary doctorate.
Yes.
Some people go around honorary doctorate, they call themselves doctor.
Yes.
It's not correct. I worked for it, Delhi University I got it.
Okay.
I got a Delhi University record in MA and I made. So therefore I prefer the degree title that I worked for rather than the one that I just inherited.
Yes, sir. I mean, a lot of rulers and people who are entitled get into high-headedness, but this is a wonderful thing about you that you still prefer to be called by the thing that you have earned. Sir, wanted to know the management lessons for handling people, because you have always been handling a lot of people and you have been an able administrator. So how do you handle people?
I think the first thing, important thing is that one has got to be very transparent and clear in one's own mind.
Okay.
So that you can then talk to the people with an open mind. Some people overthink what इससे क्या कहें और उससे क्या कहें. That's you don't get that, doesn't get you anywhere. मैं तो जो बात सीधी होती है सीधी बात करता हूँ. Because I don't have to be defensive on anything.
Yes, sir.
Even in questions I ask, I answer positively. So that I think is important with man management also. अब आप मुझे मिले, पहली बार मिले हो, तो आपसे सीधी बात हुई, आप याद रखेंगे.
Of course, sir.
कि करण सिंह से हम मिले थे, उन्होंने बात की थी. This is man management.
No, what I like when we are talking about this, when I first called the office of Dr. Karan Singh ji, and I asked, can you please put me on the phone with Dr. Karan Singh ji? I am Dr. Mayank, and they put me on the phone, right? So I thought that there might be another person who will be in between, and then the receiver was on your side, and I said, hi, who's this? And from there I got Karan Singh. I said, sorry sir. Then I said, good morning sir, how are you? Then I gave my introduction because it was so straightforward, and the direct I was put on the call through, and yes, I really liked that. And after 2-3 times I gave my correspondence, sir first said to me that I am just 90, what will I have to offer? And then because the viewers wanted to just know about Karan Singh ji, and then eventually sir said, okay, I will give you, I am busy this date and I will give you this date, yes. And unlike other places where we go to podcast, we have to wait a lot. It was like, okay, it was 12 p.m. time, and it was like, okay, we just welcomed, and sir said, you are late, come, let's sit down and talk. That was, of an able administrator, these are the wonderful things that I like.
Being punctual is one of the keys.
Yes, sir.
Key of my work. Always punctual, on the dot.
Okay.
On the dot. कहीं भी पहुंचना हो, on the dot.
Yes, sir. Our youth will take these lessons of punctuality from sir, I'm sure. So now that you have a collection of 25,000 books that you have told often, sir, which is the best book you would recommend?
The Upanishads.
Upanishads.
No doubt. For an English translation, Eknath Ishwaran has got a very good English translation of the Upanishads.
Okay.
But otherwise I read them in the original.
Because sir, listening to your Rajya Sabha farewell speech, you have spoken a lot of quotations. So wanted to know your best quotation.
Best quotation? Something from Ghalib perhaps. कोटेशन तो मुझे इतने आते हैं, कहाँ से बताऊँ कहाँ से नहीं. इंग्लिश बताऊँ, हिंदी, उर्दू बताऊँ, हिंदी.
Any that you wish to say for somebody, someone.
You put me in a quandary because I really don't know which one to choose. there's a rather cynical one from Ghalib. जब तवक्को ही उठ गई गालिब, क्या किसी का गिला करे कोई. You know, in politics, you get a lot of, you have expectations.
Okay.
And you know, if the expectations are not fulfilled, then you get depressed. So, when you don't have any expectation, तो क्या किसी का गिला? Why blame anybody? I mean, that's not a great quotation, but it is. Or if you want a quotation from the Upanishads, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata Kshurasya Dhara Nishata Durattaya Durgam Pathasat Kavayo Vadanti. Awake, arise, and move across the razor edge path. Difficult it is, a difficult path, beset with difficulties. Move across that path towards your goal. It's a very powerful message. Vivekananda liked this one very much.
Yes, sir. And Vivekananda ji also said this: arise, awake, and stop.
That is from quoting from
okay.
Kathopanishad.
Okay.
It's not his, it's a quote.
It's a quote. Okay. Thanks for letting us know, sir. Now, favorite author of yours, sir?
Oh God, I don't know. I've got so many different authors. Oddly enough, I used to enjoy reading a woman called Baroness Oxley. Nobody's ever heard of her. She wrote a Scarlet Pimpernel novels, series of novels that which I read when I was growing up. That was one series that I read. P.G. Wodehouse, another series, very funny novels. And these Sherlock Holmes novels.
Okay.
So these are three series that I read all through from top to bottom. I like them very much.
Okay. So, do you watch Netflix?
Yes, I watch Netflix. My film, now that my daughter has made a film on me, just yesterday it was released on Disney Hotstar. I watch Netflix. I've seen some very good serials. I liked Made in Heaven.
Okay.
That was all about wedding in Delhi and all the corruption and all that goes on underneath the surface. Then I liked Bandish Bandits. Beautiful music, lovely singing.
Okay.
Those are two Indian serials. Then I've seen The Crown. I've seen Queen's Gambit, about the chess player. So I like these serials.
The Crown, so when you were watching The Crown, could you correlate with your royal house and their
Yes,
royal house?
I think, well, yes, there were some things in common, you know, this sort of always some kind of a tension in the family, something. But I was the only son, so there was no real, you know,
Okay.
I didn't have any brothers or sisters or anything. But
Yeah.
some things were in common, yes.
So, your spiritual mentor?
I've had many. I've had a Shakta Guru, I've had a Vaishnava Guru, I've had a Shaiva Guru, I've had a Sufi Guru.
Yes, I read that, sir.
So, you know, and my mentors, I have intellectual mentors like Dr. Radhakrishnan. And you see, my political mentor was Jawaharlal Nehru. My intellectual mentor was Dr. Radhakrishnan. Spiritual le mere ye 4-5 alag guru the.
Okay.
So I've always gained a lot from these people. They've been very kind to me.
Sir, you had a PhD thesis on Aurobindo, right? And then later on you went on, and till today you speak a lot about Aurobindo, right? So how did you develop love for Aurobindo?
I'll tell you what happened. Dilip Kumar Roy, Bengali writer, he wrote a book called Among the Great. There was interviews with 5 people: Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, Romain Rolland, Bertrand Russell, and Sri Aurobindo. So I read that. I found it interesting in that he mentioned the English gurus we came to later. I had done my MA in political science. By the time I had reached that stage, my interest had in a way shifted from politics to spirituality.
Okay.
But I couldn't change my subject. So obviously the link between the two was Aurobindo.
Okay.
Because he was also a politician.
Okay.
For 5 years he was very active in Bengal during the Banga Bhanga, the partition of Bengal. And so I wrote on the political thought of Sri Aurobindo. Because it was the political science thesis that I had to write. So that was the bridge that gave me the opportunity to move into. And in that period, I read a lot about Sri Aurobindo. It's very interesting. His evolutionary philosophy is very interesting. Of course, the time scale is a little too long for comfort. But Vivekananda and Aurobindo have been two people who have influenced me greatly by their writings.
So this is the power of scriptures that usually is. So recently I read this book called Autobiography of Yogi and saw this cave.
Abhi padha tumne?
Sir, I read.
I did it 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
So I saw this cave which is in Dwarhat of Mahavatar Babaji, and me and my younger brother, we decided to go there, right? And so similarly you told your story about how you got interested into Aurobindo. And
Did you meet?
I saw that cave, sir.
You saw the cave, did you meet Mahavatar Baba?
No, sir. No, I don't think so yet, but yes, one message is that...
Is there a cave? Is it properly a cave?
Yes, there's a cave.
Kahan hai?
Sir, in Dwarhat. Dwarhat is in Uttarakhand, Devprayag se aage.
Acha.
Or, yes, so this interview is just trying effort to arouse the interest of the youth. Maybe they will get interested into the lives of Dr. Karan Singh and take the path that he has chosen. Sir, a most memorable moment.
I think when I got my PhD convocation.
Okay. Above all the moments.
Yeah?
Above all the moments of history, that was one of the best moments.
You mean you're talking about my personal history or the?
I mean your life's best memorable moment.
Life, so मैंने कहा ना PhD जब मुझे मिली.
Okay.
I was very, very happy about that. I had worked hard. But other moments, Bangladesh victory. I was in Mrs. Gandhi's cabinet.
Okay.
The day she announced in the Lok Sabha, Dhaka has fallen to the Indian Army, and the house exploded in joy. I never forget that moment.
Okay.
You boys can't even begin to imagine how much energy and how much emotion was put into that Bangladesh war.
Yes. We have just seen it on the TV and YouTube, but
I was in her cabinet.
Yes, you were there, sir. Sir, advice to a 30-year-old Dr. Karan Singh.
Giving advice is very easy, but I never do it because people don't usually take it. But advice, what I would say is try and integrate all elements of your personality. Develop your mind by reading, by opening up to different thought. Develop keep your body strong and fit, because what you do at 30 will define what you are like at 90.
Okay, in terms of
for example, if you become addicted to tobacco, it will ruin your lungs. If you become addicted to alcohol, it will ruin your liver. If you become addicted to drugs, it will destroy your mind. So if you have any of these self-destructive things, you will have to pay the price, nobody else. I am not saying don't do this, don't do this. तुम्हारे अपने लिए कह रहा हूँ मैं.
Okay.
तुम ही भोगोगे. Nobody else will भोगो. If you become an alcoholic, you are the one और भी लोग दुखी होंगे, but you are the one who will suffer. So you must remember, first of all, keep your body strong. Sharir madhyam kharu dharma sadhanam. The body is the basis of all dharma. Then you let your mind expand. Then study your emotions. You see, emotions are also very important, Mayank. Rage, jealousy, hate, anger. These are every bit as destructive as malaria, dengue, COVID. ये भी खराब करते हैं. So you've got to find out the positive elements in your own emotions and try and develop them. And finally, have some kind of a spiritual life. Whatever you like, whatever religion you may belong to, is not the point. Have a spiritual life. I've seen many people, they skim across life the whole year and without once looking within. And all our Shastras tell us that the joy is within, learning the treasure within. And therefore, these four things, the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spiritual development. Try and get all of these integrated in your life. That's my motto.
In short, an examined life. That's the title of the new book that's on Dr. Karan Singh ji. And yes, we are giving away those 2 signed copies to our viewers. Please hand us the book. And sir, last, your dress, the secret for it. Why do you dress so simply, always with a cap?
The secret is this jacket
The jacket and the cap,
I
sir.
picked up this jacket at a Pierre Cardin boutique in Paris. At that time it had a belt and it had, so I got rid of the belt and I thought this is very good because it's informal like this. If I want to be formal, all I have to do is put on a button and it becomes formal.
Okay.
And said I get matching cap. This has become my trademark now.
So,
Okay.
thank you for giving this wonderful time, sir. It's been a wonderful pleasure, sir, because I was watching your photos and there's this photo in a jeep where Nehru ji is आगे, आप पीछे बैठे हुए हैं, and there's Abdullah ji is sitting next to you. And I was thinking that you both are supposed to be, not friends, and you were smiling, you were like laughing. I'm like, but then I was so happy to find you so cheerful and giving me this opportunity to.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you
it's
so
good
much,
to
sir.
meet with you.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless.
Sir. Thank you so much, sir.